It all started on one of those calm, golden Sunday mornings, the kind where the air feels fresh, the birds are singing, and the world seems at peace. I was out on my private ranch, fixing a few old wooden fence posts that had seen better days. The sun was barely up, and all you could hear was the soft creak of wood and the rhythmic sound of my hammer. It was supposed to be a quiet day, no stress, no phone calls, no drama. But then came Karen. Now, if you've ever lived near an HOA Karen, you already know the type, the kind of neighbor who believes she owns not only her house, but every inch of land within shouting distance. She was known around our area for her community watch patrols, where she'd stroll around with a clipboard, taking pictures of people's lawns, fences, and even mailboxes. So when I saw her marching down my dirt road that morning, I already knew peace was over. She came storming up in her bright pink tracksuit, sunglasses on, clutching her phone like it was a badge of authority. Her face was twisted in that familiar frown, the one that could curdle milk. "What do you think you're doing?" she shouted before she was even close enough for me to respond. I paused mid-swing, resting my hammer on the fence post. "Morning to you too, Karen," I said calmly. "Just fixing my fence. Nothing exciting." "Fixing your fence?" she repeated with a snort. "You mean you're violating HOA community property rules? This land is part of the shared green belt. You can't just hammer things here." I couldn't help but laugh a little. "Karen," I said, wiping the sweat off my forehead, "this ranch isn't even under HOA jurisdiction. This is private property, my property." But she wasn't having it. Her voice got sharper. "That's what everyone says when they break the rules. Don't you dare lie to me. I've lived here 15 years. I know every inch of this community." At that point, I could have argued. I could have shown her the property map or even pulled out the title deed. But something in me decided to stay quiet, mostly because arguing with Karen is like arguing with a brick wall. She was already pulling out her phone. "Oh, you'll regret this," she said, scrolling through her contacts. "I'm calling the police. You're doing unauthorized construction on community land." I leaned on my shovel and smiled. "Go ahead," I said. Within seconds, she was talking to 911, her voice full of fake panic. "Yes, officer, I'm here at Willow Creek Ranch Estates," she said dramatically. "There's a man here, he's building a fence on restricted community property. He's being aggressive and refusing to stop." I swear, the way she said it, you'd think I was wielding a chainsaw at her. When she hung up, she gave me this smug little grin. "They'll be here soon. Maybe next time you'll think twice before ignoring HOA rules." I just shrugged. "Can't wait." Then I went right back to hammering. She didn't like that. Not one bit. She started taking pictures of me, of my fence, even of my truck parked nearby. She circled me like a hawk, muttering things like, "You're gonna be fined, and this'll go straight to the board." But here's what Karen didn't know and what made the whole thing so ironic. She was right about one thing. She did know every inch of the community. But what she didn't know was who actually owned it. You see, I wasn't just some random neighbor fixing a fence. I was the property developer's regional director, the one who oversaw the entire Willow Creek project from the start. The HOA board. It technically reported to the company I worked for. Which meant, in a very real way, I was her boss's boss, but of course, I didn't say that, not yet. I wanted to see just how far she'd take this. Karen started pacing back and forth, occasionally snapping more photos. A couple of nearby residents peeked from their windows, whispering. It was almost funny. The rumor mill in this neighborhood spun faster than a washing machine. 10 minutes later, a county sheriff's SUV slowly rolled up the dirt path. Karen instantly straightened up, waving her arms like she was flagging down a plane. "Officer. Over here." "That's him." The sheriff stepped out, calm and collected. He looked around, taking in the scene, the tools, the fence, the open land stretching out behind me. "Morning," he said to me, then turned to Karen. "What seems to be the problem, ma'am?" Karen launched into her story, dramatizing every word. "He's building an unauthorized structure. This area belongs to the community association. I told him to stop, but he threatened me and kept going." The sheriff looked at me, then at her. "Ma'am, did he threaten you?" Karen hesitated, realizing she might have gone too far. "Well, not directly, but his tone was aggressive. And this is community property, officer." The sheriff scratched his chin. "Ma'am, this looks like private ranch land. You sure this is HOA property?" "Of course it is," she snapped. "I have the HOA handbook right here." She started flipping through her printed binder like she was quoting scripture. I just stood there quietly, watching the whole show unfold. Finally, When she started pointing to a page and waving it in the air, I decided it was time to step in, not to end it, but to shift the story. I pulled a folded paper from my pocket, a recent survey map from the county. Actually, officer, I said, this entire section from that tree line to the stream was sold to me outright 3 years ago. Here's the deed and the plat number. Karen froze. That can't be right. Oh, it's right, I said, handing the papers to the sheriff. You can even check the county records. I own every square foot of this stretch. The sheriff looked over the papers, nodding slowly. Everything seems in order. Karen's face went pale, but she wasn't done yet. But the HOA, the sheriff raised a hand. Ma'am, this land isn't under HOA authority. You might want to double-check your maps before calling 911 again. That's when I saw it, the flicker of panic in her eyes. The realization that she'd just wasted law enforcement's time, but before she could say anything, another vehicle pulled up. This one, sleek and black, with tinted windows. Karen turned. Who's that? I smiled slowly. That, I said, would be someone from your HOA board. Her eyes widened. When the sheriff arrived, things moved fast. He looked over my paperwork, walked a few feet down the fence line, and came right back shaking his head. Well, ma'am, he said to Karen, looks like this land isn't HOA property at all. County records list it as privately owned by him. You could have heard a pin drop. Karen's jaw fell open. Her face turned the color of ripe tomatoes, but that can't be right. She stammered. The HOA map clearly. The sheriff held up a hand. Ma'am, I've seen this kind of mix-up before. But this man's deed checks out. You don't have jurisdiction here. For a moment, she just stood there frozen, gripping her phone like it might somehow save her from the embarrassment. Her voice cracked when she finally spoke. This isn't over. I'll talk to the HOA board. They'll handle this. I could have laughed. But instead, I just smiled, the calm kind of smile that made her even more nervous. Karen, I said softly, you might want to take a seat before you dig yourself deeper. She blinked. Excuse me. That's when I decided it was time to make one little phone call, the kind she'd never forget. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through my contacts, and hit the number for North Point Development, the corporation that oversaw the entire community's real estate and management operations, including her HOA's parent company. Karen crossed her arms. Oh, calling your lawyer now. Cute. I didn't answer. I just waited as the line rang, my tone as casual as could be. Yeah, hey, I said when someone picked up, can you patch me through to the regional manager for the Willow Creek HOA division? Tell him it's David calling. Karen scoffed. Like you know our corporate people. Then came the voice, on the other end, firm, respectful. Director David? Yes, sir. Hold on just a second. I'll transfer you right away. Karen's face went blank. I put the call on speaker. Hey, Mike, I said when the manager answered. I've got one of your employees here, says she works under the Willow Creek HOA, right? Mike chuckled. Oh boy, don't tell me it's another one of those property rule incidents again. Oh, it's a big one, I said. Her name's Karen something. She just called 911 on me, claiming I was building illegally on community land. There was a long pause on the other end, then a sigh. You've got to be kidding me. That's all, Karen. Karen's lips parted. Wait, what? How do you know him? She asked, her voice trembling. Mike's voice came loud through the speaker. Because he's my boss, Karen. David's the regional director for all of North Point's property divisions, including your HOA branch. The sheriff looked like he was trying not to smile. Karen's face drained of color. He's what? I nodded slowly, folding my arms. Yet. So technically, I'm your boss's boss. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she started backpedaling literally. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize. I was just trying to make sure everything was, according to regulations. Mike cut in. David, I'll handle this personally. I'll schedule a compliance meeting Monday morning. She'll answer for this. I smiled politely. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Then I hung up. Karen looked like she wanted the ground to swallow her whole. She started mumbling something about misunderstanding maps, but the sheriff wasn't buying it. Ma'am, you need to stop calling emergency services for non-issues. Consider this an official warning. She nodded rapidly, eyes wide. Yes, officer. Of course. I didn't mean any harm. I leaned against my fence post, pretending to think. Karen, I said calmly, next time you want to accuse someone of violating property rules, maybe check who owns the property first. She forced a fake smile. the kind that twitched at the corners. Of course. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. But even as she said it, I could tell her pride was burning inside. Karen wasn't the kind of woman who just let things go. The sheriff gave her one last nod and left. His SUV disappeared down the road, leaving us standing in awkward silence. Karen fidgeted with her phone. Wow. I suppose I'll head back now. Sorry for the misunderstanding. Sure, I said. Drive safe. She turned and marched off down the road, her pink tracksuit swaying with each furious step. But something about her expression told me this wasn't the last I'd hear from her, and I was right. That evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon and my ranch glowed gold against the hills, I got an email from North Point's compliance department. Karen had filed an official complaint against me. I actually laughed when I opened it. Her wording was dramatic, accusing me of abusing authority, intimidation, and improper land usage. But the funniest part, she copied every board member and even attached photos of me fixing my fence like it was evidence of a crime. That's when I decided, if she wanted to play office games, I'd show her what a real corporate play looked like. So, the next morning, I walked into my downtown office. Past the glass doors that bore the company logo. She worked under North Point Development Group. The receptionist greeted me like usual. Morning, Director David. And there, sitting in the waiting area, was Karen. Her eyes widened the second she saw me walking toward her, suit and all. And the next morning, I didn't have to do a thing. Karen's own choices had already sealed her fate. Around Shang-Julie, my phone buzzed with a message from HR, a short note that simply said, "We're handling the situation internally. You'll be updated once it's resolved." Apparently, after our call the previous day, upper management had started digging into Karen's file. What they found wasn't pretty. Multiple complaints from coworkers, reports of her berating maintenance staff, and even one incident where she allegedly harassed a tenant for leaving their trash bin out too long. And then the big one, the 911 call from her boss's property. That alone was enough to raise red flags at corporate. By mid-morning, she was called into HR. From what I later heard, she walked in wearing the same self-righteous look she'd had on my ranch, clutching her binder of rules like a shield. She thought she was there to explain a minor misunderstanding. But the HR director had other plans. They pulled up the police report, the call logs, the photos she took, the false claim about unauthorized construction on community land. And finally, her official complaint, the one she filed against me. It didn't take long. The HR director explained that North Point had a strict zero-tolerance policy for employee misconduct, especially when it involved harassment, misuse of authority, or wasting law enforcement resources. Karen tried to talk her way out of it. She said she didn't know who I was, that she was just doing her duty as a community member. But her words kept tripping over themselves. The more she spoke, the clearer it became that this wasn't about rules or community. It was about control. She wanted to feel powerful, and in trying to do that, she picked the worst possible person to test. When she finally realized her job was on the line, she switched tactics. She begged, "I didn't mean to cause trouble," she said. "I was just trying to protect the neighborhood." But the HR director only shook her head. Protecting the neighborhood doesn't mean harassing residents or misusing police time. Especially not when the resident you harassed happens to oversee this company's regional operations. And with that, it was over. Karen was terminated on the spot. Her company badge was deactivated before she even reached the parking lot. I didn't gloat. I didn't call anyone. I just went back to my work, fixing the last section of the fence she'd interrupted days earlier. The wood creaked softly under the sun, the same peaceful sound I'd started with before all this began. But karma has a funny way of saying hello, quiet, simple, but impossible to ignore. Later that week, as I was driving out of my ranch, I saw her. Her once pristine SUV came crawling slowly down the dirt road, dust kicking up behind the tires. She wasn't wearing her bright pink tracksuit this time. Just a plain gray sweatshirt, her hair pulled back, no sunglasses, no clipboard. Later, when she noticed me, her grip on the steering wheel tightened. For a second, I thought she might speed off, but instead she just lowered her gaze, pretending to fiddle with her phone. I slowed my truck as I passed her, rolled down my window, and tipped my hat with a polite smile. "Morning, Karen." She didn't look up, just nodded faintly and kept driving. As I watched her taillights disappear down the road, I couldn't help but think this world has a strange sense of justice. Some people learn from consequences, others run from them. But either way, karma always finds its address, because sometimes, it doesn't knock, it shows up wearing a badge and carrying your termination letter. I looked out across my ranch, golden sunlight spilling over the hills, the fence standing strong again, and finally, peace had returned, and for the first time in a long time, Sunday morning felt quiet again.